On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we have to unfortunately break down now the only undefeated team left in the SEC, or defeated, not undefeated, undefeated in losses, I guess, which is Mizzou, winless team. There we go. I can't think. Yeah, we're gonna recap that game and the somberness that continues to haunt Missouri men's basketball season. We do have some football news we'll dive into too. We'll talk a little bit more Brian Early because he got officially hired on Friday. We'll do a little Senior Bowl recap too, just because Mizzou was so good there. Then we'll do quick hits. We got Kent Sports Shorts, Dirty Birds of the Weekend, our fraud rankings, big college basketball fraud rankings this weekend to dive into, and then we'll end with ratio. So good show. If you want to look past, if you want to enjoy that we're doing a show, even that it's going to be about Mizzou being so bad, hopefully it's still entertaining enough. But with that, we will dive in and get the show started. Before that, quick word from our sponsor, Bet Online. It is Super Bowl time, and it is the Chiefs and 49ers repeating, the usual suspects heading back to Vegas for the Super Bowl. And our partner Bet Online is your number one source for all the Super Bowl odds, trends, stats, and lines, with everything from point spreads to hundreds of bets on everything from the coin toss to the color of Gatorade. Two of my favorite Super Bowl bets to make. Love guessing the color of the Gatorade. Bet Online is your number one source for championship wagering. So head to Bet Online today to get in on all the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. We're going to do our Super Bowl stuff on Friday's show. So I was going to ask you, Kenny and Peyton, the Gatorade question now, but I'll save that for Friday's show. Maybe we'll throw that in as a wrinkle. But let's do our best beats of the week by Bet Online. Kenny, what's your best beat of the week?
Before we do that, did you guys see the guy on Twitter who DM'd a bunch of Chiefs players and was saying that it was for his classroom that he teaches, and they were going to do like a poll on who the correct color was going to be so he could bet on it, actually.
Yes. He was like,
Blaine Gabbert was included. It was Mizzou guy, so I thought that was fun. Okay. I thought it'd be fun as well to just start mentioning our records. At one point I was pretty far ahead in this stuff. I'm now 25-22, and this one's more just emotional hedging. Kansas 5.5 on the road at Kansas State on Monday. I mean, Jayhawks win by 5.5. Cool. They win by 6. That's great. But Kansas State covers. Kansas State wins. Also a good feeling. If Mizzou turns it around and needs this as a resume booster, that also plays into it. And that's how I'm going to go for the rest of these bets. I'm going to look at how this could boost the Tigers' resume.
Yep. They need that. They need that. All right.
Quality losses.
My best beat of the week, I'm 27-21. That is good for first place in this challenge. I got Eastern Washington by 3.5 over Portland State. Folks, if you go to Handy Dandy Torvik, which I have not mentioned before, I don't think, the Eagles are 4-point favorites by Torvik over the Crusaders. Yes. Get this one while you still can, because it's not going to be 3.5 very, very much longer. They do not have a red court like they have a red football field, though.
That is unfortunate. You're also wrong. You're not in first.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You are in first in your eyes because you don't count the wins that I appropriately earned. I'm still riding the coattails of all my Iowa bets.
I am
28-19. I'm 28-19. I'm in first place. Undisputed. First place. I got all those bets right. First place. And I am sticking with mid-major basketball like Peyton. I'm going the Cowboys of McNeese State to cover a monster spread of 18.5 against Texas A&M. Commerce. Yeah, Will Wade, great coach of McNeese. Folks, McNeese is a future NCAA tournament darling in waiting. You heard it here first. They just lost their first game in conference play earlier this week. They're going to be fired up. Texas A&M Commerce, not very good. They're 2-7 in the Southland. McNeese, they're going to be fired up. Shahada Wells, there's a name for you to watch. He averages 18.9 points per game for the Cowboys. They've only lost 3 games all year. I think they're going to go to the tournament. I think they're going to do something special, and it's going to start with a big cover of the Commerce. What are the Texas A&M Commerce, Peyton? Mascot?
They're so that's CC. Or no, they're Commerce, so it's not CC. CC is the Islanders. I believe Commerce is the Lions.
It does look like a lion on their logo, so we'll go with that. McNeese is covering the Commerce. They are an NCAA tournament team. Darling, in waiting, Will Wade. Good coach. So yeah, give me A&M Commerce. With that, let's segue. We'll see our mid-major. I put this down on my calendar because I realize when I do these like mid-major games, I always like forget to check the score, and then I'm as surprised when everyone else is when Kenny just tweets the graphic. I'm like, oh yeah, my game's done. So I put it. I deliberately
twice
put it.
He's tried to saddle me lost in games that I won.
Yeah, are you accusing him of rigging it? Is that the?
Yeah, he's thinking I'm not checking the scores. I'm checking the scores, buddy.
I did it once on accident. The other time, I just wanted to see if you would notice.
Which one did you want to see if I would notice?
The latest one.
The Montana State one?
Montana State one.
I didn't think you noticed. I was like, this wasn't even close. Montana State easily covered. The fighting Raekwon battles. He doesn't go there anymore. But yeah, I'm in first.
You're not in first. Peyton is not in first. I will be further in first when McNeese State covers, assuming Kenny doesn't sabotage the graphic again. But I wrote down on my calendar deliberately. I put check McNeese State score at 10:15 when the game ends. So come on, you Cowboys, cover. With that, we'll segue. We'll get into the rest of the show. Dive in, starting with football. The unwritten rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, February 5th, and we're going to hold off talking about the Vanderbilt game because I don't want to talk about the Vanderbilt game very much. I don't think Kenny and Peyton want to talk about the Vanderbilt game very much. So let's talk about Brian Early again for a little bit to start things out. We're going to recap a little bit of Senior Bowl stuff too. I know we hit it mostly last weekend, but they've doled out their awards, so to speak, and recognitions, and Mizzou players were obviously on there. So we'll talk about that too. But let's dive into Brian Early. He was officially hired Friday. We talked about it when the news broke. It was going to happen, but Mizzou made it officially official. And they posted a bunch of his accolades. So this comes from Mizzou football on Twitter. I'm going to just race through these. He has an impressive resume in Houston. So in 2017, he was their team's Broyles Award nominee. Of course, that's the top assistant coach in the country. They went to 8 bowl games while he was an assistant there. 7 all-conference defensive linemen while at Houston. Of course, that was in the American mostly before they joined the Big 12, but still pretty impressive. They had 2 of those in 2023, so I guess that wasn't the Big 12. And then they had 4 of his guys have been NFL draft picks since 2021, so that's pretty cool. 5 seasons at Arkansas State. We love our Red Wolves. He had units that ranked among the top in the top 20 nationally in sacks or tackles for loss 5 times. And then he had 3 consecutive Sun Belt Defensive Players of the Year, all in a row when he was also at Arkansas State. So pretty impressive resume he's bringing. Obviously, the next question is going to be how that all transitions to the SEC. Can he keep that success going? But I really like the hire. This Houston-Mizzou pipeline has been pretty lucrative for the Tigers so far in recent years.
Honestly, it's starting to feel more like an Arkansas State to Mizzou pipeline, Northern Illinois, 2011 Go Daddy Bowl. Brian Early, I do want to correct you on one thing, Knowlton.
Oh God, what did I say?
The 2017 Broyles Award that came at Arkansas State. That was not at Houston quite yet. But I mean, you look at all of these numbers. I mean, it's impressive over both Houston and Arkansas State, because you mentioned like a lot of these all conference nominees came at the AAC. The AAC has not been a weak conference for a good number of years, though. It's definitely the de facto 6th best. It's definitely passed up the Mountain West, other conferences like that. But the 3 consecutive Sun Belt Conference Players of the Year is really quite something. All around, those are impressive numbers. Feel pretty good about that hire early on. We'll see how he recruits. We'll see. Early on. We'll see. Yeah, it just clicked. That was not intentional. We'll see how he recruits. We've gone over it to death at this point. Mizzou recruits very uniquely. Just a lot of different regions that some guys get. I mean, the first tweet he had the day he was hired by Mizzou was that he was in Shreveport caught in traffic. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but got to be impressed with the resume for Brian Early.
And like another thing that really just comes to my mind with that Houston to Mizzou pipeline connection is when Brandon Jones was named the offensive line coach in late March, early April last year. And then a month later, transfer portal opens, big target, Cameron Johnson, who was at Houston, someone that they put into the offensive line and had a good second half of the season for the Tigers. Maybe there's someone down there at Houston right now that maybe doesn't have the spring they want, doesn't want to be with the Cougars anymore, wants to maybe look somewhere else, new head coach at Houston, and maybe they give Mizzou a look if they hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, that'll be, kind of where we go next with, in addition to kind of our draft coverage with the guys from this year's team, is who could be some of those names. I think we've talked a lot about how Mizzou has kind of expanded its reach, so to speak, with some of the guys they've hired and, might have some more inroads in territory. And yeah, former schools are certainly, a great place to start and a great place to go for some of these new coaches coming in. But yeah, Brian Early, officially official with Mizzou football, becoming their new defensive line coach. Let's finish off with the Senior Bowl stuff, because we were praising Cody Schrader, Darius Robinson, Chris Abrams, Drain, the three of those guys at for their play, but they got some recognition. Cody Schrader, they have the clip. Mizzou football posted it on X of the ESPN clip. Another, hey, did you know he had 2,000 yards at Truman State? I laughed when that was the first thing I heard the announcer say. But yeah, and Javon Foster too. Sorry, Javon Foster. I should lump you in there. I feel bad. Offensive linemen don't get the recognition they deserve. But yeah, all four of those guys. But yeah, just final thoughts from there. I know I saw one thing. It was like, I forget who posted it, but it was like a top 3 offensive and defensive performers from the Senior Bowl, and Darius and Cad were 2 of the 3 defensive players. So stocks rising for all 4 of those guys at the Senior Bowl.
My first thought, just from the actual game itself, was it's a shame Cody Schrader had to downgrade at quarterback and work with Joe Milton a lot, because my God, he is terrible. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He is abysmal.
No, he's pretty bad.
That interception he threw while he was targeting Cody Schrader, Jesus, nobody should draft that guy. But back to the Mizzou point, Darius Robinson, I think, probably did more for himself than anyone else at the Senior Bowl. I mean, the guy's getting first-round buzz. People, we touched on this last episode, the way he wins at certain defensive alignments, it drew comparisons to J.J. Watt. So I don't think anybody had a better Senior Bowl than him. Cad obviously was great. He has concerns about his size, but boy, the guy can just play, and I think teams are going to realize that. Probably won't go as high as he should just based on pure play, but I would be surprised if he lands in the right spot. I'm sure he can develop into something else. And we touched on it, Javon Foster, Cody Schrader. Cody Schrader got a lot of run in the actual game at the Senior Bowl, so good for them. Didn't sound like anybody really hurt their stock, so that's always nice.
And Cody showed all of his qualities: elusiveness, speed, even the strength. He had a big run on 3rd or 4th down where he just kind of pushed himself for that extra yard to cross the line for the gain. And it was just a great overall showing from Cody. It's crazy to think that this guy, like 2 years ago, and we beat it to death, but someone who really just got lucky with an opportunity to go to an SEC school, just a guy asking Coach Drinkwitz to give him a shot, and turned into an NFL player through it all. Pretty incredible story. And I think we'll definitely get a lot of those stories resurfacing here in a couple months whenever he's drafted or signs with an NFL team.
Yeah, you can go to Mizzou football on X too. They have the highlights of him too, with that clip also of them talking about him and his story that everyone, like Kenny said, knows by now, I think. So yeah, great for those guys. We'll see where it all ends up for them. We'll have draft people. I'm sure we'll have Max back on to talk about those guys and where they stand as that gets closer. It's just hard to tell before combines, pro days, all that fun stuff. Mizzou's pro day is gonna be cool. I'm envious of the people who get to cover that. But Yeah. Oh, and Darius Robinson, he won the Player of the Week for the practice. That was another accolade he got. So stock rising. I think it felt like him and Ladd McConkey, the Georgia receiver, were like the top two guys in terms of everyone was like, wow, these two are really, really good. So we'll see how it all unfolds for them. All right, now we have to segue and recap men's basketball. Not another fun day, but another classic day of Mizzou men's basketball and SEC play. The Tigers losing 68-61 to Vanderbilt in Nashville, which means, of course, Mizzou is the only remaining winless team in SEC play. They are officially dead last now in conference. General thoughts and takeaways, gentlemen, from another disappointing day. Bright start, poor finish, crappy arena, according to Gabe DeArmond. What are your thoughts?
Well, 0-18's on the table, man. Like, there's those were the two most winnable games remaining on Mizzou's schedule, and they emphatically lost the first one and never had the lead really down the stretch in the second one. They just can't get more than two guys going at once. I mean, Noah Carter came out and just lit the world on fire. Had I don't even remember how many points in the first half.
9.
He had 9 to start the game. Yeah, I know that. But I can't remember. He finished with 20. I know that. Him and Sean East had decent first halves. Then they kind of trailed off a bit in the second half. Nick Honor and Tamar Bates carried the load down the stretch. But nobody else did anything. Kurt Lewis hit 2 free throws and Aiden Shaw made a second half point. That's it. Other than those 4 guys. There's no dudes on this team. It's just a horrible, horrible basketball team. There's no way around it. And now at this point, I don't really think you can fix this in a year. I mean, it is that bad. I mean, the freshmen have really largely looked more bad than good. Aiden Shaw has not really progressed to the point where he kind of needed to be for this team to still be a pretty good spot. None of the 7-footers have impressed me at all. That includes Jordan Butler, unfortunately. I don't know, man. You got 5 freshmen coming in next year. It's totally unrealistic to expect them to be able to come in as freshmen, especially because they're not one-and-done types. These aren't one-and-done freshmen. They are guys that need time to develop. They are very high ranked. They will probably be very good players, most of them. But they're not going to come in and save a sinking ship like this. There's genuinely one player I think that I would be upset if he transferred, and that's Tamar Bates. Even the freshmen at this point, there's so much wrong with this team. You need as many roster spots as you can get in the offseason to try and slam the portal. You cannot be missing targets this time around because this is a total mess at this point.
Did you know Mizzou started off really hot in this game with a good lead? I feel like I heard that a lot of times in this game. Also, there was a lot of talking about the floor and the seats being below the court. Yeah, we've seen this court before for the last 10 years. It's not something new, and it was just kind of just an annoying game all the way around. You talk about roster spots opening, of course, guys like Noah Carter, Sean East, Nick Honor, Connor Vanover, not expected to be back next year. A lot of those guys running out of eligibility as well. Going to be a youthful team, but a team that also is going to have to address the portal. I made some jokes that we're going to see a Tamar Bates update in April or May saying he's going to Arkansas or somewhere else because he just built his stock up with such a strong second half in a really down year for the Tigers, one of the worst seasons in the last decade. It's crazy to think that this team doesn't beat that 2021 team, the last year of Konzo's era. That team felt like just a band of misfits, guys that were on the lower end of the transfer portal. A lot of these guys that came in for the Tigers this year, and nothing really got put together that year. This year, this is where the question goes: are the Tigers going to win an SEC game?
No, I mean, no, I don't think so.
I mean, the odds favor them winning one. I mean, in the last 50 years, there's been one winless SEC team in league play, and that was 2018, 2019. Vanderbilt, they did it. They went the big 0-18. But I don't know. They find ways to lose. Like last year's team found ways to close and win. This team does not. Like it's the exact opposite. And really, I mean, I don't even know what to say about it anymore. There's so many guys that are just giving you nothing. Kurt Lewis, I have no idea what they're doing anymore with guys like him. I mean, it's honestly it makes me mad like when I see some of these guys on the floor as long as they are. Like I get it. Mabor Mayock, like he played a career high in minutes yesterday, and Dennis and Noah got asked about it in the post game, and they both emphatically said he earned it. That really stinks. That just effort alone is warranting 19 minutes a game for a player on this team. And I know there's injuries. John Tonje and Caleb Grill, who were supposed to be big pieces, are hurt. Other teams have injuries too, man. Arkansas lost Devo Davis. They haven't had Trevin Brazile. They were without Keon Menefield for a lot of the year, and they have found a way to scratch off 2 conference wins. So the team is not good. There's just no way around it. I mean, this is about as bad as it has ever been for Mizzou.
And what makes me nervous too, Peyton, with your point about like, you're right, you can't miss in the portal next year. You know, that they were missing in the portal a year after they went to the NCAA tournament, and you felt, you know, Dennis Gates was one of the most beloved coaches in the nation. You would think, oh, they could sell this team really easily to some of those guys, and they didn't do it then. I don't know who's going to look at this year's team and say, well, I'm going to come play for that, unless it's someone that maybe looks at Tamar Bates and says, well, you know, maybe I can do that for myself if I go here. But it's got to make it a lot harder to bring in the guys you need to have the turnaround that you need if you're Dennis at this point.
Yeah, I don't think you can even go into next year expecting them to sniff the NCAA tournament again. I think you have to totally, like, this year has been such an unmitigated mess that you kind of just have to reset expectations for everything. Like next year, I just am praying to God Dennis can get this team to the NIT. Like that's really kind of just the growth I'm looking for at this point. And they aren't playing on Wednesday in the SEC tournament. And that sucks because, I mean, you couldn't have told me after year 1 that there was a chance in hell this was going to happen. And I still largely recruiting at the end of the day eventually just takes over. And Dennis Gates can clearly recruit. And I think that'll eventually lead to wins. We saw it this year. I'm not trying to compare Eli Drinkwitz to Dennis Gates here because the worst Eli ever did was 6-7. But the comparison I'm trying to draw here is like you had to wait for for Eli Drinkwitz recruits to really step in, be those guys. And like you saw it this past year. They went 11-2. They won a damn New Year's Six Bowl. This was probably the most successful year for Mizzou since 2013. So what I'm trying to say is not that Dennis, like Eli, ever had a year this bad that's comparable, but you kind of have to just wait for the recruiting to set in. But boy, I mean, there's going to be you got to hit in the portal to kind of make that be true if you're Dennis Gates.
Really too difficult to even project what's going to happen next year. There's going to be guys on this team. They're going to have to get guys in the portal. There's going to be guys on this team we've never even heard of, that I've never heard of. Like I feel like that's where it's kind of been the last 2 years. Like, did you guys know Jesus Carlo Martin was before he jumped into the Mizzou world? No. That's just what it's going to be like. There's no one on this team. There's no like Kobe Brown that's going to stick around through like a bunch of changes that, you know, he's going to be able to be there and be the guy for you that's going to be in a starting lineup next year. If Tamar Bates stays, I mean, that could be the guy that you think about and kind of build around. But it's a lot of new faces. It's going to be a lot of freshmen. And that's where you just have to kind of let it grow. And looking, you know, at the last couple of years when Conzo Martin was in charge, there just wasn't many freshmen. We talked about that. It was just Jordan Wilmore. There was no one coming in and no one really looking at develop. It was a lot of these kind of like band of, you know, the misfits and the guys that were coming around. And I mean, Trevin Brazile ended up being pretty good down the stretch, but he left. And it's just, you just haven't seen this kind of situation for the Tigers in recent years. And I've said this before, Mizzou fans, people who watch this team are very spoiled in year 1. Those are guys that I think a lot of us could admit we didn't know who Demoy Hodge was, and you didn't know if he was going to be good. And then you see all these other guys coming in the next year, didn't know their names, but if Dennis is recruiting them, maybe Dennis knows something that we don't. It just ended up not being that way. And I don't know. It's just you talk about a guy who won JUCO Player of the Year, and it's not working out. It's like what was going on in the JUCO level that warranted that for Kurt Lewis?
Can you believe he shot over 50% from three in JUCO? I mean, that three he took at the end of the game was so not close. Yeah. I mean, it was unbelievable.
And they did that, with Muhammad Diarra and Sean East. They were the two highest JUCO players the year prior to joining Mizzou as well. So you thought, and Kurt Lewis went to the same JUCO that Sean East did. So, you thought maybe that could, where Kyle Smith-Peters' brother was the coach, by the way, just getting deeper into that lore. So you thought maybe it would translate the way it has for Sean this year. And I know Muhammad Diarra didn't really live up to everyone's expectations a year ago, but I don't know. I think, to Peyton's point, like, I think in basketball, it's very hard to taper expectations with letting a recruiting class embed, because in football, you can see that you understand, oh yeah, physically these guys need 2 or 3 seasons to develop. And then, they'll go supernova and you'll have a class finally, or like a class of recruits finally like take over for a new coach. Basketball, John Calipari has ruined this for all of us, where you just get these 5 stars and you can reload year after year after year and still take them to the NCAA tournament. That's not how Dennis has built programs. It's not how he helped build his program with Leonard Hamilton at Florida State. It's not really what he did with Cleveland State. It's going to take time and it's going to take patience, but I think, Peyton, you're spot on with the expectations do have to reset. And that's the sad part about all of this, is we thought it would be, it would be a step back, and then next year it would be NCAA tournament, kind of like they were in his first season. And I think you're right. It's going to have to be, hopefully they're going 500 in conference play a year from now. And then you get another class, of another top 10, top 5 recruiting class in with Aaron Rowe. And then it's okay. Trent Pierce is a junior, Jordan Butler's a junior, maybe, then they're where they need to be at that point. But it's just going to take longer than people realize. And that's hard in basketball. People do not have the patience for that on the hardwood like they do with football. That for me is like what kind of the difference is. Yeah.
Well, and Dennis kind of indirectly dug his own kind of grave with those types of expectations, because he, like Kenny mentioned, he brought in all these guys we hadn't heard of, and they won 25 games. And Dennis has hit. I mean, he's always kind of, just going back to the Kurt Lewis thing, he's always kind of dipped his foot into the JUCO realm. Demoy Hodge came from there. DeAndre Golston, I believe, went that route before he went to Milwaukee. I know Knowlton did a big profile on him. Trey Gomelian, Ben Sternberg. A lot of those guys were in JUCOs or just playing way below like the level they were at, and it still all kind of clicked in their own roles. They kind of all clicked last year.
But I think it clicked in part too because, like, Demoy Hodge was with Dennis for 3 or 4 years. Trey Gomelian was there forever. I mean, DeAndre Golston at the very least played against a Dennis Gates thing for a year and then was there. Like, so, I think it takes a while for everything to kind of click, and that I still believe will happen. And when it does happen, we've seen already what that leads to. So yeah, it's everyone having to kind of rediscover their patience. So we'll see how it goes.
Damn you, Dennis, for spoiling us last year. Now we have to have these combos.
Yeah. I know we didn't dive like too much into the actual game, which I don't think is a big deal. It's Mizzou Vanderbilt. I mean, they lost, and the notes I put, you mentioned the 20-9 run, Kenny, that they talked about a million times on the broadcast. They were up 20-9, believe it or not. Jordan Butler was the only player with a positive box plus minus. He scored 0 points and had 2 steals. That was pretty much it. This team scored 4 bench points, 2 from Aiden Shaw and 2 from Kurt Lewis. Sean East, too, got hurt, remember. He got carried off the floor at the beginning of this game, so he was playing through an injury. So you mentioned injuries, but they might revisit that. They don't know how hurt he might be. And then Maybor, I had to shout out. I'm glad you mentioned the Maybor career high in minutes, which I think just tells everything you need to know. Mabor Mejak in 4 years of college basketball has never averaged more than a point or a rebound per game in a season. So just played 19 minutes in an SEC game. Not to take away, he had high energy, I guess. But
I don't know why I'm going to keep watching this team, but I'm going to.
For that first win, that first win's going to feel so great.
If they get it.
If they get it.
I mean, good God. I mean, you look at this week, they got to go play Texas A&M now. And Texas A&M just frustrates the hell out of me to even watch because they're James Harden if they were a basketball team. And that sucks to watch 5 people doing the same thing. I don't know, man. It's just a frustrating year. And yes, I think my confidence in it all working out is shaken a bit, but at the end of the day, man, you just got to kind of remind yourself recruiting always eventually takes over. And you're not going to have the number 4 recruiting class in the nation. And you'd have to move mountains to suck with that down the line. You really would. It's so unlikely.
Good points. Good points. We'll end on this before we segue. You know, the whole, I don't want to sound too cliche, but there are obviously some things that are bigger. We had the news too about Dickie Nutt, Mizzou's assistant coach, got the cancer diagnosis. Obviously wishing him a speedy recovery. They made comments after the game. The thing he put out on Mizzou men's basketball Twitter felt somewhat reassuring. They caught it early, they said, so they're hoping he can make a speedy recovery. The Vandy game was his last game, so he's going to take a leave of absence to get treated. But obviously just, I don't know if you guys have any things on that, but you know, just wishing, we're just wishing him the best. Obviously there are bigger things in life. I'm glad they caught it early because that's, you know, a bad situation. And he, along with the rest of the staff, just like Dennis, seemed very well liked. So, you know, just wishing
he's well liked by the fan base. You don't always know a lot of the assistant names, but you know his impact. He mentioned he's still going to be scouting, still looking over some guys, which just means that basketball means the world to him, and that he's just a basketball guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me tell you about an unsung hero, Mabor. I love Dickie Nutt. I'm glad they caught it early, at least.
Yeah, wishing him a speedy recovery. But we'll, you know, it'll suck to not have him on the sidelines for at least a while while he's getting that sorted out. Mizzou, like Peyton said, plays Texas A&M next at 8 p.m. in Columbia on Wednesday. You can watch that game on ESPN2. So if you want, we're all sickos, so we'll be watching, and I'm sure be texting the same old frustrating things. But yeah, Mizzou A&M, 8 p.m. Wednesday on ESPN2. Thus ends another day, another winless game, and winless streak continuing for the Missouri Tigers. With that, we'll segue. We'll finish the show on a little bit more of a fun note, and keep you rolling with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. Kenny's been waiting a long week for this because of what happened last week. Go to the TikTok to find out what happened on Ken's Sports Shorts. Kenny, do you have one that we can guess before you finish the question?
I'll let you know that someone on TikTok responded to what Peyton did to me with "Dang, he knows ball." So I bet that feels good for you, Peyton. But this week we're looking at the 2014 NFL Draft. Just kind of refresh your memory of who was taken in the top 3. That was Jadeveon Clowney, Greg Robinson, and Blake Bortles. Other guys like Khalil Mack, Mike Evans, Anthony Barr, Eric Ebron, Taylor Lewan. Just kind of get your mind going about who was taken in this 2014 NFL Draft. In that year, though, 4 Missouri Tigers were drafted. And none of the 4 are still in the NFL. But you know, I'm confident to say together, if you guys put your minds together, you'll be able to name all 4.
I have one.
And to make it easier, though, I'm going to give you the round. I'm going to go round by round to tell you the player. I'm going to give you round, team, and position.
Okay,
Make it a little bit easier just because it's been a decade now.
Yeah.
And we're getting into draft stuff, so I thought it'd be fun to do this.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the first name. We're looking at round 2, Carolina Panthers defensive end.
Coney Ely.
Correct.
Yeah,
that is first. Okay. In that same round, the last pick in the second round, Seattle Seahawks offensive tackle.
Oh, is this Britt?
Britt.
It is Justin Britt. There you go. Former Texan as well.
I remember him. He was good in the offensive line.
This is going a lot faster than I thought it would because now we're getting into round 6. 3 of the 4 here. Round 6, St. Louis Rams cornerback.
Cornerback?
Corner, yes.
Oh, EJ Gaines was there.
Nikhil Roby Coleman. I'm just kidding.
No,
That's correct, Peyton.
It is EJ Gaines.
Hey, nice, Peyton.
It does suck though when you're looking at these players and the last time like some of them played in the NFL. I guess Justin Britt was last season with the Texans in 2022, not the 2023-24 season. But a lot of these guys ended in 2020, 2018, not very long careers. This 2014 class was pretty loaded. Last name on here, kind of an easy one. Round 7, St. Louis Rams defensive.
Michael Sam.
Yeah, that was great. You guys did awesome with that. 4 for 4.
Dang, not one wrong guess.
When was Dorial Green Beckham in there? I guess he might not count
Oklahoma
for Mizzou since he transferred.
He would have been in Oklahoma.
But was he 2014?
He might
in the draft?
Yeah, I honestly don't know for sure. I was thinking this might have been
2015.
That's what
Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, okay. Alden Smith was also on my mind because I was like, that's around when he was.
Yeah, but I think he was before that. So
good stuff, Peyton. We nailed that.
That was a good one, Kenny.
Yeah, good one, Kenny. We'll do. We pick another year for that down the road when we get close to the draft.
Yeah, those are fun. 2014 just seemed a little bit easier because it was the Michael Sam year right off of a Cotton Bowl win. Yeah. Okay, my Dirty Bird of the weekend goes to the Kentucky Wildcats. In my mind, I just remembered the Wildcats aren't a bird, but I'm going to do it anyways. I don't know why I was thinking about that, but I was thinking of Louisville.
I thought you were going to make some sort of crazy connection. You just forgot.
Yeah, I forgot. I was just thinking about Louisville when I was typing up my doc, but they're just going to be my Dirty Bird of the weekend because this ties into Jaden Quinton's. Mizzou is losing, but so is Kentucky. I don't care that Kentucky's ranked 10th in the nation.
They're not good.
The Wildcats lost 103-92 to rival Tennessee at home on Saturday. The thing I'll mention, Jaden Quinton's, you're going to play for a loser. Last time Mizzou played Tennessee, Mizzou won. They didn't lose like this. And they actually won a big game. It was in the tournament. So think about that, Jaden Quinton's. Don't watch the game on February 20th when Tennessee, unfortunately, will be beating Mizzou. But Jaden Quinton's, you're going to play for a loser, buddy.
Yeah, facts.
Wouldn't it be funny if they didn't lose that game, though? That's the one win.
That would play even more into my stuff. That would make me look like a genius, and everyone would be calling Wildcats birds at the end of the day.
The transitive property stuff about Mizzou, if they beat Tennessee, would be off the charts. You could have spin zoned that into them being first in the SEC then, if you wanted. I do, Kenny. I like this take because for SEC basketball, I think 3 teams can win the SEC, and I do not think Kentucky's one of them. I don't think Kentucky's very good.
Alabama, Tennessee, and who?
Auburn.
I don't agree with that.
No?
I think
Auburn's
not good either.
Dog walked Ole Miss.
I don't think Auburn's very good.
Ole Miss isn't good.
I think Auburn could get exposed, but I still think they're good enough as of now. We'll see what happens.
Anyway, I'm anticipating that Bama Tennessee game. Dirty Bird of the week is me, Peyton Haverman. How am I a dirty bird? I went to Park Hill South High School, and one of Park Hill South's rivals was the Liberty Blue Jays. And the Liberty North Eagles. Those two have since probably well surpassed Park Hill South. But moving on, I'm a dirty bird because Corey Batoon does in fact run partially a 3.35. So I was incorrect in saying they only run a 4.25. John Berger, who commented, was correct. They do run a 3.35. They also do run a 4.25. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that. I would assume they run more 4.25 considering it's more, closer to what Mizzou did last year, but they will probably run 3.35 sometimes.
I never thought a coach's timeline and style would draw so much controversy until we debated both that and if he crossed over with Drink at Arkansas State. That back and forth was also absurd. I was like, why? There should be obvious answers to this, but I guess we'll just have to see what he runs on the field at Mizzou. But way to take ownership of that, Peyton. Proud of you. My dirty bird of the week. I'm going to the wide world of soccer. This is big news. Kind of just, I guess, just in general, but a player that a lot of people will know, Kylian Mbappe, the Frenchman, connection to Bird. France, their international team has a rooster on their little patch that they wear. So he's a French bird, and he's on the move. Apparently, he's going to leave Paris Saint-Germain, the big club in France that he plays for, to go to Real Madrid. Now, he's kind of a dirty bird because he's done this for a while. There's basically this has kind of been like a saga. It's like, oh, he's going to leave PSG and go to some other team, and you know, leave them. And there's been so much back and forth, but now apparently it's happening. So it's big news. To equate it to like an American sport, it's kind of like KD joining the Warriors. Real Madrid's already like one of the best teams in Europe, and now they're going to get damn near the best player in the world. So it's big news. It's big news. He'll have a busy summer. He's going to play at the Olympics for France. He'll play in the European Championships, which is like the World Cup, but just for European teams. So yeah, he's on the move.
Bayer Leverkusen did need him anyways. We weren't even interested, to be honest. We don't lose. So we don't want a loser like him. He lost the World Cup.
Are we getting Messi?
Bayer Leverkusen?
Bayer Leverkusen?
I don't think so.
Are we getting Messi?
I don't think so.
You can swing a deal with ESPN, then maybe.
I don't really want Messi. Florian Wirtz is better anyway.
Ooh.
He's on Bayer Leverkusen.
He's one of our best players.
Just pretend you know.
Edit that out.
Just pretend you know for the bit. Give me a coughing fit. Jesus. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Kenny, what time is it? Kenny, what time? Oh, is that a that's not quite a grandfather clock.
Because it's never right. Not even twice a day is it right.
Oh,
it's fraud time. At number 5, we're throwing it over to Jack.
Number 5. I'm going to kick it over to our correspondent, Patrick Mahomes, to break this one down. Patrick, what happened to your Texas Tech Raiders?
My Texas Tech Raiders just got the butt whooping put on them by the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Is that your Patrick Mahomes
in the Big 12?
Stop cutting off Mahomes, Peyton.
We have 2 straight losses in the Big 12. We were in the top 15. Now we're going to drop out for the top 25. Dadgummit.
Fraud. The Red Raiders. Not good in the Big 12. A lot of parents.
Coming in at number 4, we got the best college basketball conference in the nation, the Mountain West, the 5-bid Mountain West. Mountain West Wars took it to another level yesterday because Utah State Aggies, who Missouri beat in the tournament last year, they took their 3rd loss of the season. They're now 19-3. The 17th ranked Aggies fell by 14 to Final Four previous, that word. San Diego State, the Fraud Techs, they beat the Froggies. 2 Aggies. Wait. That's number 4 in the fraud rankings.
Coming in at number 3. Don't go breaking my fraud.
Whoa.
I couldn't if I fraud. But baby, if I had Caleb Grill, I'd beat the Baylor Frauds. That's what I would say if I was Iowa State and I still had Caleb Grill. 70-68, the Baylor Bears. God was on their side in Waco this weekend. Iowa State, number 3 on the fraud rankings.
Fraud Drew got ejected from that game. Number 2, we're going out west to the Fraudia CC, where Fraud Zaga took on St. Mary's. Fraud Zaga, not a mid-major, according to Mid-Major Menace on Twitter. They lost. Their Fraud fans were throwing fraud trash on the Fraud court in the Frenel, the Fraud kennel, as the Bulldogs, probably not going to the NCAA tournament. They lose to the Gales.
Looks like Mark Hughes got more than just dogs in his car. He's got frauds in his car.
Lucy in the sky with fraud bowlers. The Pro Bowl going on right now. A bunch of wimps not putting on the pads and playing a little tackle. They're not playing tackle. They're grabbing the flags. It's 47-30 at halftime. What's going on in the Fraud Bowl over there? Going on in South Florida. Oh, that's number 1 in the fraud rankings. The Pro Bowl.
Good fraud segment. I like the singing that Kenny provided there.
That was good.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you guys, seriously, if you're a college basketball fan, you didn't see the ending of the Gonzaga-St. Mary's game, go rewatch it. It was hilarious. They were throwing trash on the court.
If you love college basketball, watch every St. Mary's Gonzaga matchup and watch West. It's really good stuff.
They are good. All right, ratio of the week. I can do the first one for the ratio of the week. I believe I submitted this. This comes from Jeff Goodman on Twitter. He tweeted, "The Daily, forget football. We're talking hoops," followed by a bunch of bullet points, and their latest, I think, podcast from the field of 68. This was on January 29th. I brought this up last show, but that came shortly after Jeff Goodman was getting dunked on for asking a Big East fan how they would look in orange after they made a documentary. Goodman's tweet had 57 likes. 58 retweets / quote tweets, and 327 replies. One of which comes from Sky on Twitter. Jeff Goodman loses a bye game to Twitter. The epitome of brutality. That's a typical Goodman tweet, using it against him. Yeah, Jeff Goodman dunking on you again, man. That was didn't love what all happened there. You can go to last episode. I recapped all of it, but had to throw Mr. Goodman back in for another ratio.
Him and his goofball partner.
Yeah, don't bring him up. I don't want to talk about him anymore.
He loves Mizzou, Kenny. He loves Mizzou.
Yeah, he does. He loves it. He really understands college basketball. Yeah. The second ratio of the week. I want to start off with something. Mike Florio, does he kind of remind you of what our friend Gabe DeArmond does? He probably used to have a Twitter account, now just uses his account for the website he runs. And that's just like his own personality. It's like behind a different, you don't see the picture of him at all. I did
see a thing. It was an article and it said Mike Florio, otherwise known as Pro Football Talk on X. And that was how he was referenced in an article. And I said, if anyone ever references Gabe, that's how I would like him to be referenced. Gabe DeArmond or Power Mizzou, as he's known on X, followed by what he has. You're right. I like that comp. Anyway.
I'm not saying that they have the same personality in some things that they say. I don't want that to be like a diss to Gabe at all. It's just they seem very similar because, I mean, Mike Florio is a big voice in the NFL. Gabe DeArmond's the biggest voice in Mizzou sports. And so that's why I thought that could be a good reference. And this actually kind of ties into Gabe because this is how I found the ratio. Mike Florio tweeted on January 29th, the coach told me earlier today that analytics was just a way for people who never would have gotten jobs in football to get jobs in football. To understand that is to understand why they get so defensive whenever anyone questions analytics. That got 1.9 thousand likes. Matt Miller, NFL draft scout on X, quoted it with, an editor told me earlier today that aggregation was just a way for people who never would have gotten jobs in journalism to get jobs in journalism. To understand that is to understand why they get so defensive whenever anyone questions aggregators. And if you know Gabe and if you follow Gabe, if you ever talk to him, Gabe does not like aggregation. He doesn't like things that aren't true reporting, and aggregation is not one of them. Sure, it might be helpful if you just want to see all the tweets from one account. The same time, it's just someone stealing your work to make money off of it. And we know Gabe is not a fan of that whatsoever. And I think he mentioned he wanted to make it his header or his bio on Twitter, on X. It was pretty funny.
Well, how many likes did the Matt Miller tweet get?
Over 3,000.
Yeah.
That was the ratio. Thank you.
It's
Mike Florio.
That's also, it's like a big tweet too. Cause like NFL aggregate accounts are like some of the most annoying. So it's like, that's the best place to apply that. But yeah, that's a retweet to pin type of deal. Only quoting this so I can pin it to my profile. Shout out to Gabe. We love Gabe. He's the new Mike Florio of the Mizzou beat. I like this comp. All right. With that, we will end the show. Peyton?
What? I'm just kidding. I can't even keep a straight face. This
doesn't bother me anymore. So you guys are gaining nothing from this. It doesn't bother me.
Oh, good. Then we're going to keep telling them.
Yeah. As he leaves.
This comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. This is a good one. Al Roker. Good one.
Banger after banger.
Guys, once I read a book about glue, I couldn't put it down.
Wait, that reminds me. One time I was in middle school in a class, and a bunch of like kids who were sitting at my table glued like the textbooks together, and then like all booked it out of there, and I got blamed for it. I had to clean it. I'll still hold on to that.
Defend yourself. Why didn't you stand up for yourself? Oh,
well, because I also felt bad for my teacher, and I was like, I'll help you get in the books. I was just trying to be nice.
What a bunch of knuckleheads.
Yeah, some classic middle school behavior. All right, well, in the show, I want Kenny to tell a joke one week from the. If you're truly over it, you would tell a joke from time to time from the Today Show.
Nah, maybe next time.
All right, well, in the show, thanks everybody for listening. Go enjoy your week. We'll be airing our grievances, I'm sure, on Wednesday when Mizzou plays Texas A&M in men's basketball. So we'll see how it goes. We'll recap it. Who knows if that win is ever coming, when it will. Maybe we're recapping it. I'm kind of sick of saying maybe we'll recap the first win next show, but maybe we'll recap the first win next show. Until then, We won't. Until then, everyone, enjoy. Have a fun and safe week. We'll see you guys on Friday.